Hi, welcome. This is Yasmin Bijan Wilson, and I have with me the lovely Cheryl Bassett, and we are co-leading today's Google Hangout. We are both coaches and expert epic entrepreneurs, and we are so happy to be training. And isn't this interesting? Because we are live. I was just getting a Skype call as we were talking, so I don't know if you guys saw that. Anyway, it is my pleasure today to talk about physical well-being and nutrition and all the areas in which we most often have our New Year's resolutions around is getting healthier. And a lot of times that includes shedding pounds and eating better and doing all the things that we know to do to be healthy. And it's the start of a new year. So it has prompted us to include it as part of our 30-day epic challenge. But of course, you know, it's actually a 5-week epic challenge because we have our bonus week with Jen. And for those of you who may not be knowing all of our previous week's topics, we've talked about the first week, the mindset shifts. And then the next week, we talked about finances and how to grow your revenue and some sales strategies. Last week, our lovely Cheryl talked about relationships and specifically impact on family and the programs she's come up with that is award-winning, actually, and it's kitchen table conversations. And then this week, we get to talk about health and wellness. And, you know, health and wellness can be so many different things to so many different people. And today, really, we're going to talk about the physical aspect of wellness. Mostly what people kind of have a knee-jerk reaction to when they're setting up their knee-jerk reactions to their resolutions. So why I have Cheryl on with me today is she is a professional health coach. She and her husband have a chiropractic and wellness center. So she is an amazing, amazing mentor, teacher, trainer, and coach. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Cheryl. Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you, Yasmin. Yes, it's great to be here, and this whole epic journey that we're taking with the 5 generations of women and all the topics that we're tackling. And, you know, this is part of that 30-day biz challenge, and just excited to be a part of it. And of course, I did do the relationships piece last week, and this week is really getting into another area. I sort of laugh sometimes because I feel like the way that I get involved in things is that I mess them up, and then I get to learn how to do them right, and then I love to be able to share them. But you know, so it's sort of the first part of the journey of messing it all up first, and then trying to go through the pathways to try to bring it back to you know, where the relationships are strong and our health is strong and all those things. So for me, you know, being able to share today is just exciting, and certainly an area where I've had a personal journey, as well as helped a lot of other individuals kind of get set on the right track.
You know, that is fantastic that you share so authentically and you're so real, because many of us think we've gotten where we are effortlessly, and sometimes it's true. Sometimes we don't have hurdles in certain areas in our life, and sometimes we become teachers and trainers and coaches because we teach what we most needed to learn. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Never been. So this is.
So as in your case, you know, as you had your journey and so authentically and real and really shared about your journey of not doing right, and boy, I can certainly relate. If you don't have a story like that, maybe you're not playing big enough. But I would say that truly we all have experienced that. I don't think anybody cannot relate to having, well, they could be failures or challenges or those, you know, valleys that happen before, you know, the peaks of success. And so that's when we usually hit those crossroads where we're like, we really want to make a change in our life. We really want to make a change in our business because we're either sick of ourselves or sick of our situation, or it is too painful to not have that outcome that we want, like being healthy and fit and having that energy, or creating that life balance with our business as well as our family, whatever it might be. I have found through my journey of coaching that is when people typically reach out for support and want to make a quantum leap in their life and really make a commitment. And so, like I said, most often, especially in America, one of our top New Year's resolutions is to either shed pounds or get healthier so we have more energy to go do the things that we want to do. And so one of the things I just thought we would start off with is just talk a little bit about what you might share with someone previously in your past, coaching clients, let's say, who started off with the New Year's resolution that wanted to get healthier. What was some of the things you would do to get them powerfully launched and committed on their way?
Well, one of the first things that we tackle, quite frankly, is what's sort of behind their decision making, right? Is it emotional based? Is it just habits that they've created that, because it's much easier if we've just created a habit that doesn't serve us. That's a much easier thing to work with than somebody who's very emotionally attached to, whether it's food or, whatever it is they do. So I think part of it is trying to understand the root of where it's coming from is one of the first things that we tackle. The second thing is, particularly at the first of the year, I think sometimes people are like, man, I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to do this. They have like all these things, and they're all good things. It's just that all of those are stresses on the body, because anytime you have a change, good or bad, it's a stress on the body. And if you try to do too much at once, that stress actually creates cortisol in our bodies, and cortisol is actually what creates the fat in our body, right? So it's just, it triggers different things. So you really want to have more of a plan moving forward. It's not to be doing it all in one fell swoop. It's really to start some habits and do it gradually in areas to some extent. And I know people like fast results, but that's a stress on the body, right? Anything that's a massive change all at once. It's like when people decide to just, I'm going to quit caffeine completely. Well, you know what? Your body's going to go through some major withdrawal if you try to do it. But what if you gradually cut that back out of your diet? So I think a lot of it is baby stepping, right, their way there. So that's sort of the start point, because I don't, understanding where they've been, do they sometimes too, if people have started so many times and failed so many times, their expectations already set that they won't be successful. So you have to get through some of the mind shift there, right? Like you guys talked about early on in your program. So you guys started this whole thing off, right, with you and Donnie talking about mind shifts. And that's really, anytime you're tackling something new like this and really getting on a pathway that makes sense for you, that mind shift has to come into play.
That makes absolute sense. And that is why we actually strategically built this 5-week program. Actually started out as 4, and then we found this other amazing coach, Jen, right, around solutions. Mm-hmm. So we have a bonus week. But I'll say that with my background as being a trained success coach in the areas of life and business, we always start with the mindset first, because we know it is the core of everything. The mindset and the mind are mission control. It's where, our actions and decisions and emotions are all generated from. Now, to go back to the first thing you talked about, I had a question. Mm-hmm. So how do you distinguish between if it's a habit or if it's emotional? Because you said it might be a habit, or there might be some emotional attachment. So what triggered in my mind was, that okay. So how would you know, or is it really the same thing? Is it important to know the difference and where you fall?
Well, it's important to know the difference because, and I'll give a simplistic example. Your habit of maybe not drinking enough water throughout the day,
I'm sure you would,
because you don't put things in place that allow that habit to be shifted, right? Going to the movies, if there's a habit that you always stop and get the popcorn on the way in, that's just a changing that, and you only have to have 5 minutes of willpower, right? Because once you're past the popcorn and sit in your seat and the movie starts, guess what? You don't really even think about the popcorn unless you're on a really bad movie, which So assuming you picked a decent movie, you're not thinking about popcorn after it starts, and that's why people sit there and eat like an entire bucket of popcorn, because that becomes mindless eating. So sometimes habits serve us well, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes people sit in front of the TV and eat. And if you create the habit that that's not something I'm going to allow myself to do. If I want to eat, I need to go sit at the table. guess what? You don't sit there and mindlessly eat, because when you're at the table, you're there to eat for a purpose. And so it's really just looking at those are habits. Emotional is, when I get depressed, the only thing I want to do is eat an entire, bucket of ice cream. So that's an emotional attachment which a lot of people have, that comfort food attachment, right? It's self-defeating. Those are cycles that people get in, and that's why it's really important to have someone that you can call when you think you're going to go off the deep end, right? So those emotional ties to food that come a lot of times from our childhood are sometimes much, much harder than just changing up a habit.
Yeah, as we talked about in the first section, the first week, about the mindset shift and how our neural pathways absolutely come into play. I mean, we get a little scientific, but they're finding that, neuroplasticity is absolutely real, and you can shift and change the brain. And if you do have those habits, it is a matter of that rewiring that happens. And when people have those, as we talked about, those aha moments, they're actually rewiring their brain. So if we have some aha moments around habits, or aha moments around, oh my gosh, that emotional attachment I had did happen when I was young. And it's so interesting, because I talk again, I have a beautiful little 3-year-old girl. She's about to be 4. And it's so interesting as a coach to see her develop, and wondering what decisions she's making. And of course, I'm doing the best I can as a parent to lead as best example as possible. But what I do know is human nature. They're going to make decisions about what's happened along the way. And, we screw up our kids no matter whether we like it or not, right? But that's their life lesson, and that's our life's journey or lesson as well. So I always wonder, how that comes into play as grown-ups. You don't always need to know where the source is, but now that I see that I have this 3-year-old, I can see how these beliefs are being shaped at such a young age. And before I had a child, and I went through my coach training program, they had said that oftentimes that we are 3-year-olds running around in grown-up bodies, because our mindset really did develop at that young of an age. And that's what's still running the show. So we talked about in the first week, the mindset shift of going here in your blind spot. Like, for example, you said with the emotional eating, sitting down and eating that, whole bucket of ice cream or the whole thing of pie, and recognizing, oh, wait a second, there is an emotional attachment here, and bring it now into the forefront in full view versus just being at the effect of it. And as Dottie had said so elegantly yesterday on our blab, she said, well, can you have a piece of cheesecake, or does cheesecake have you? So again, it goes back to that emotional versus habit I'm getting. So again, linking together each bit of content that we have, because they, like you said, they really all build on each other, and they're all interrelated.
Absolutely. And I think that, if I look back at mine was completely different, maybe than a lot of others. My mom was somebody who was she would sit down and eat an entire bag of jelly beans, right, in one sitting, and make herself sick doing it practically, right? And she always struggled with her weight. Now, I have to be honest with you, I was a little bit blessed. I took after my dad's side of the family, and not my mom's. My mom's side of the family, I think, just by nature, has a little more challenges with weight issues. My dad's side of the family, they're more hyper. They're up running around all the time. They're like, so it was a different, and I did take after that side. So I have that piece kind of working in my favor. However, my perceptions around food were that it was very negative for me. As some people use it as comfort, for me it was a negative, because my mom's whole life was dictated by, if she felt like she was thin and looked okay, she was happy. And as soon as she didn't, she was unhappy. Her whole life revolved around that image that she had of herself. So therefore, I realized that she became sad, unhappy, and depressed when she ate food. So therefore, I don't gravitate to food. In fact, I have to watch that when I get stressed out, that I will not eat, right? Because I don't want to put more stress into, because for me, that's a stress signal, not a comfort. So I have the exact opposite issue that a lot of people have I don't gravitate to food. In fact, I'll have to go, man, I have got to eat something because this is ridiculous, right? I know my stress is bad, but this is the worst thing I can be doing for myself. So
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I know some people have said, well, I'd love to have that problem. I ended up in the hospital in my early 30s because of that problem. And
Wow.
so I sort of felt blessed to get back out, which is why I got on my health journey, because it's not, it's really about understanding that, we don't eat to, we don't live to eat, we eat to live, which is what Dottie was saying yesterday on the lab about, does the cheesecake go you, or can you enjoy that piece of cheesecake? And you got to have a healthy relationship around it, regardless of which side of the equation you fall on.
It's so true. And there's such wisdom that everyone brings to, these hangouts and sharing different perspectives, because it's so powerful to see it at the different levels and different perspectives that we all have. And it's so simple, it's brilliant that, okay, if it doesn't have you, right? And, or do you have it? It's just your relationship to it. And I would say that, of course, it's totally your journey that you had that experience of going in the hospital. And I'm sure you likely look back at it and see it as a blessing or as a life's lesson that you had to go through. So then on the other side of that, you now coached other people through their health challenges and could really relate to them and share compassion and really build that trust and respect and integrity around your experience to parlay that to others. Was that what you found when you ended up working with other people?
Yeah, I mean, again, because of this whole relationship that we have with food, and I know we talked about the relationship with food and exercise and, everything in our life in terms of our health. I'm just going to shut it over while we're talking, but that's okay. My apologies. So that whole piece is, just our relationships around it, and understanding that relationship is just so critical. Now that I shut the door, I'm trying to remember what your question was, because
well, that your journey of having gone to the hospital being your catalyst,
mm-hmm.
it now set off a series or a chain of events of a life purpose of you coaching people within their own health challenges and could really relate to them. Was that your experience?
Thank you for bringing me back to my point.
No problem. It takes a village. I get it. Yeah, this is live, so.
It is kind of what I was saying earlier. It's like I kind of got to mess it up and then figure it out. But I will say this: when I came out of the hospital, I wasn't given a lot of direction. I was given a don't do that, and I look at it now and I think, oh my word, what was I thinking? I wasn't really eating anything of much nutritional value. So it's no wonder and I was drinking a ton of Diet Pop. To this day, I don't drink any pop, period. It's not in I quit that day. And or after that stay, I came out. I've never had it since, because it really had done a lot of damage for me. And I think people downplay that. Now, I was drinking a fair amount of it. So, if you have a can a day, I don't think there's any redeeming qualities in it. That was the one thing. But for me, I was doing more than a can a day, right? So that was something that I just totally got out of my realm of reality at all. And that was a very positive. But I also went, I got crazy about it. I became a sponge and I was absorbing. And, when you start absorbing into it, I wouldn't cook on the stove with any kind of pans that had coating on them. I wouldn't do anything in the microwave. And I was, after a while, trying to just keep up with all the things you could do, I was stressed out from just trying to, and so I found out, and I guess this was the point I really wanted to make, is that it's really not complicated at all. If you just eat less, move more, drink your water, and get rest, those are the things that are the basics of what you need to do. And it's not complicated, but it's not always easy to do. And that's what I've tried to because if you're eating McDonald's every day, when maybe you should be eating some things at least organic, it's really hard to take somebody from McDonald's, if Z is organic, and get them there in one fell swoop, because it's a mind shift that has to happen through that period of time. And all those little steps that you take are important along the way. So I think that, for me, coming out of there and realizing that I made it really complicated for a while, and it didn't really need to be, because if you're making good choices most of the time, that those slight edge changes that you make will get you in the pathway you want to be on.
I couldn't agree with you more. I know sometimes in the past, my husband and I, for example, will try different diets, if you will, or eating programs or lifestyles for a little while. So he and I have been together for about, 13 years or so. Yes. And, when we first started dating, we tried the raw food diet. And that was so stressful. And just to try and eat it as a lifestyle, right? Talking about no microwaves, no nothing. You could even eat cooked food. And I found that what you just shared, as much as I love the outcome and the health benefits of it, the lifestyle was too stressful for me. I couldn't incorporate it,
Right.
And the people that I knew who ate raw foods, they looked amazing. They were vibrant, but their whole lifestyle was really around that. And so I found it to be more stressful, and it didn't take it. Every time I do that, now my husband, because he's had some challenges with his digestion, he found that grain-free works for him. Like grain-free, no rice, no oatmeal, no quinoa, no corn, anything that is a corn derivative. And there's actually a show on television, I think right now, something called My Diet is Better Than Yours or something like that. And I do believe he was sharing with me, he was watching it, and he happened to resonate with one of the contestants that they're grain-free. So he was, so that's his world. So he's been doing this for a year. And he's asked me now to do it. And since we've been doing our 30-day challenge, I chose to do that one thing, to just cut out grain, right? Because my husband's asked for a year. We obviously live in the same household, right? So it makes it easier for cooking. And it's been stressful because I did, eliminate it, like you said. And I'm not seeing as big of a drop, because what I'm noticing is now I want to crave something that's not grain, like a potato starch or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So you can go through these extremes, and I'm just sharing authentically, I'm going through that right now, right? When you go to that extreme, because the outcome sounds really good. Well, I'll be on the same eating program, but it could be stressful. And then my body wants to hold on to it because it's just so, I think what you just said, it's so drastic. And so I do have my coaches of support that I'm rallying around me. Thank you for yours, by the way. I really appreciate that. And I would love to talk further. But, I really want to share from my own experience of what you just said, real time. That's happening right now. And I like the idea of, cutting out the grains or whatnot. Now, I don't know if that's the best for me. It happens to be the best for him. So we shall see. And of course, now we have our, 3-year-old, and we're trying to identify good habits for her. But what I also found was, the more you say, you want to take something away from a child, the more they'll want it. And my mother was that way. She said she was so super healthy. And then as a kid, you want to go the opposite whenever you can, to be defiant or, like what you were referring to, or not always, but oftentimes. So I could see where that could backfire as well. So, what do you, as a mom yourself, what would you say? I'm going to switch direction a little bit. What would you say is a great example of how to teach your children healthy eating habits? And I know you just said those 4 things: eat less, move more, drink water, and sleep. But is there a fun way that you might be able to do it? Because, when it's more fun for kids, it certainly makes it easier for them to adopt.
So, yeah, it's funny because when my kids were little, I was sort of going through that time and space that I was sharing with you, where I was really unhealthy, right? So obviously when I came out of there, my poor kids were like, oh, mom's healthy now. We can't go down the candy aisle. All the things that were okay before, now we're not okay, right? So, but we really just had a lot of great discussions around them. And fun in that we would do, there were some websites, and I'd have to go back and look, but there were a few that actually quiz, and they do quizzes online sort of at the younger kids age, and they say, which is better for you, which has more calories, which has more sugar, all those things. And we talk about, as they got older, obviously I could share more and more with them in terms of sort of thinking about things in certain ways. I can show them sort of, I have this diagram I do that kind of tells you, here's what happens when you eat breakfast in the morning and make a good choice. Here's what happens when you don't eat breakfast. And here's what happens when you eat breakfast and you make a bad choice. And it sort of sets off this chain reaction, right, in your body. So as the kids got older, we were able to sort of play through some of those things. And, you know, it's not that I wanted to beat them over the head with it. And it's not that they could never make a bad choice, because one of the things that we talked about really early on, Yasmin, I mentioned this sort of just a second ago, which is this kind of the Slight Edge or the Compound Effect. Those are two really great books, by the way, Slight Edge and Compound Effect. Because what they say is that, you know, if one morning you get up and have a donut, your health isn't going to go down the drain. If every morning you wake up and you have a donut for breakfast, guess what? Over time, that change is going to lead you to being unhealthy. If every morning you get up and you, for the most part, make a good choice, then that slight edge leads you towards being healthier versus poor. So there's two pathways, right? Sometimes we just hang out in the middle and it's like a 50-50 swap. But sometimes, you know, there's people that wake up in the morning and they have a bagel. And a bagel is about the equivalent of 6 slices of white bread. Who in their right mind would get up and eat 6 slices of white bread? You know, nobody would make that choice, but we don't realize sometimes the choices we're making. So we would play these games with the kids about, you know, well, which is really a healthier choice, or just trying to understand a little bit more. And I will tell you, both of my kids now are so much more healthier than me. It's amazing. Like, and they're boys, and they back me completely off the map, because I'm the one with the sweet tooth, and neither one of them do that a whole lot, right? So it wasn't like there was this just one moment that we sat down and figured it all out. It was because we met weekly, as you know, as a family, and we had ongoing discussions over time. As far as it fun, you know, I think there's all kinds of ways to incorporate fun components into it, and it really just depends on their age. But I will just tell you that kids want the knowledge a lot of times too. We found some really good videos too. There's one I'll have to send to you because you'll like it, and it just talks about food choices and how they create the acidic environment in our body. But it was really well done, and it's fun. So sometimes just finding those resources can be helpful too to help.
Absolutely. In fact, if we could post that on our EPIC website, you know, to follow up. So those who also would like to have access to that. And, you know, sometimes, since, just on an aside, we're using technology, there's an echo or gets jarbly. And literally right as you were saying the 2 books, it got a little jarbly. Would you be so kind as to say the names of those 2 books again?
So the one is called The Slight Edge,
mm-hmm.
and the other one is called The Compound Effect.
Mm-hmm.
They basically say the same things. I don't know that you need to read both, and probably just pick one of them that, you know, that you see, because they both are in concept the same thing, but really just about our daily decisions. Because I have this thing I do where, you know, if you're happy married or you're unhappily married, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're healthy, if you're unhealthy, if you're what's the common bond that all those have, like between that, like what do they all have in common about whether you're, you know, happily married or unhappily married, whether you're successful in business or unsuccessful in business. It doesn't really matter. It's like, what's the common bond? And the common bond is that they're almost always driven by our daily decisions. It's not big things that make us successful in business. It's the daily decisions that we do in our business that make us successful. And the same thing with our health and our finances and our relationships. It's all those little things, all those little daily decisions that don't seem like they're big, but over time they become the path that we create for ourselves.
That is so true. And actually talked about that yesterday, and also, you know, in time management, because time management is life management. Life management are choices that we make. And, you know, culminating some of the topics that we came up with yesterday, Coach Jen talked about, when I asked her, what is your definition of wellness? And we were all just so touched, moved, and inspired by her answer. And it just coincidentally happened out of a conversation which she had with her good friend, Allison. She said that wellness is self-love. And, you know, this goes back to that, of what's the self-love that's driving the choices or decisions that we're making every single day, and how we're choosing to live our life. That's what I'm hearing. Again, I like tying things in from other conversations so that there's you know, it's a chain link, you know, or, you know, however you want to call it, or layers, or these are all intertwined. And wellness is by far the most impacted by all areas of life. If we're stressed, it impacts our wellness. If we eat poorly, it impacts our wellness. If we're not producing results in our business, which causes stress, It can impact our relationships in our marriage and our family. I mean, it just, and therefore also wellness, because it could have, caused people to be depressed or sad or whatever, and that's now mental wellness. So wellness is, I think, and we all agreed yesterday on the Blab, that even though we're talking about business and being an entrepreneur, wellness really is at the core of it, about creating a strong foundation. So I know Tony Robbins is big on incorporating this, and when he's coaching people, because your physical and mental and spiritual well-being absolutely make an impact on the results you want to have, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So we are like this culmination of all these different backgrounds, and this week is wellness. And so all of us, at some level, all of the topics, even though this is business, the impact that we have on our wellness, we invite our viewers to really look at themselves and go from, what was in your blind spot to really, invite them to put it into view of what is not working in your wellness area, because it is absolutely affecting your business results. And if it's not immediate, then those choices over time, like you land in the hospital, for example. And if you're in the hospital, you can't function in your career or business or as a parent or as a spouse. So it absolutely affects all that. In fact, on Thursday, I'm going to talk about a little bit more depth about time management and about how to prioritize. We're going to talk about the rocks, pebbles, sand concept. And we're going to talk about how it affects us and our choices, and as well as how to clear ourselves almost mentally and emotionally so we can be present in the moment rather than keep bringing the past into our present. That keeps either stressing us out or keeping us stuck, again, not producing those results. And that absolutely can be with our wellness, making the choices that don't serve us or the choices that do serve us, like cheesecake or salad, one bite or the whole pie. So, again, these are the daily choices that, you're referring to, and it makes perfect sense. And it can be simple, but not easy, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny because some of the biggest things that I see people make a mistake. One is and my mom was the person who every Monday, she was basically starting a new diet. Right. And, and she would basically be on the I'm not going to eat anything diet, which is never really a good one at all. And I think there's a lot more awareness out there now around that. Most people realize that starving yourself is never really the answer, because your body just responds to it and shuts down, and you still don't really lose the weight you want, and what you do lose is your muscle and not the fat that you want to lose. So I think a lot of people are more in that awareness, but every Monday that was her plan. So, and then I would see people that say, well, I only eat one meal a day, and they couldn't understand why, they were still gaining weight. And there's so many things that happen in our body, but if you put your body into starvation mode all day long, and then 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock every night, turn the faucet on high with food, the body can't use it all successfully in that moment. So it overflows and stores what you can't use as fat. And so regardless of the fact that they weren't taking in a lot, they were eating once a day, and their body was basically in shutdown mode the rest. So that's a mistake I see a lot of people definitely make. So the smaller meals throughout your day concept is so valuable. And a lot of diabetics do it really well because they've had to learn to do that well. But the small meal concepts, and here's the other thing is I worked with, this is a fascinating story. I worked with two twins. Both of them were extremely overweight. One of them decided to do gastric bypass. The other one decided to do this healthier track of just really, a shake regimen that I was involved with at that time. But it doesn't really matter. The point was she was doing the 5 to 6 smaller meal concepts throughout her day. At the end of 30 days, the one that went the gastric bypass route was unhealthy, felt horrible, had lost weight, looked haggard. The skin was just not good. You could just tell, not a healthy appeal. And was sick most of the time. And the other one had lost the exact same amount of weight. Energy levels were up, felt great, was working out, and doing all the things that you would want to do with it. So I would just encourage people, because after about 3 days, generally speaking, of no sugar. I shouldn't say no sugar, but cutting back on sugar. You can get past sweet tooth cravings. I know that from personal experience. And the other thing is that your stomach will shrink on its own. You don't need to go get it stapled somewhere. It may take longer than 3 days, but it's not going to take dramatic amounts of time to get to that point where if you just start eating smaller meal concepts, eventually when you try to go back and eat a bigger meal, you won't want to do it. So that's just one thing that can really help tremendously. And the other thing, I guess, just as a mind shift is everybody thinks that doing exercise is a deposit. Like if you think of the things we do to add value in, we drink water, we eat healthy, we get our rest, we exercise. We put all those things together. And I would say that exercise absolutely is a deposit, but only if you're doing those others. Otherwise, if you're not eating right, if you're not sleeping, and if you're not drinking water, and you're running yourself down, and then you think doing exercise is the answer, it's not. So that's the other mistake I just see. Your body's in massive amounts of stress at that point, and exercise becomes a withdrawal and not a deposit in terms of working towards your health. So, I mean, you can have one of those things. Maybe you're not sleeping as great as you should, but you're doing the others. But if all three of those things are really not where they need to be, going out and beating yourself up at the gym is not your best answer in that moment. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And of course, as you always say, I resemble that comment, right? Because I've certainly done all of the above. I know when I get busy, I'll forget to eat. Or in my younger years, when you think you're invincible, I'd go the whole day. I was outside sales. I'd go the whole day, come home, starve, and eat this huge meal. And I'm wondering, why I might be weight. Now, when I was younger, it was called that. And then as you get older, hormones change, your baby's happen, or the cortisol sticks, or whatever that might be happening, But the fundamentals are still there. Drink water, get good sleep, and, eat less, smaller, more frequent meals. And from what I understand, it's probably depends on your own metabolism, but higher protein, because that really feeds the muscle, and then the muscle then burns the calories throughout the day, makes fat. And again, I am not my area, but again, you're sharing what it is that I'm learning. Like Oprah used to always say for her own show, her own challenges and struggles that she would go through with her own weight, for example. Like I really never ever had an issue until probably my mid-30s. I just shifted one habit to the other. And then, boom, there's that. And then later had in vitro, which, they shoot you up with all kinds of hormones, and then sleep. So I'm on a journey myself, much like you ended up in the hospital. I'm on a journey myself. Okay, how did I get here? And it's so apropos that I have this team of coaches around me that remind me not to sport. And everything is always happening in such perfect alignment. There are no accidents, right? And there's something else that's no accident that I want to share. I was working with a coaching client earlier today. They happened to mention to me something called the miracle morning. And now since then, that's just this morning, since then, I've heard it now twice, and it's popping up on the side of my screen for some reason. And the miracle morning, in a nutshell, from what I understand, so apparently I'm supposed to share it on our Google Hangout because it keeps showing up in my realm, is a miracle morning has to do with the self-care or self-love that we were talking about yesterday. And I was telling my coaching client, wow, there are no accidents. We were just talking about this yesterday. So it's about getting up an hour earlier. Now, again, I've got the crash course, or just a smidgen of what it's about. So the miracle morning, get up, an hour earlier than your kids or your family. That could be a habit now that works in your favor, because now you can do the exercise and prepare maybe those small meals in advance so that you're ready to go. Because part of my challenge is stopping and eating and making those meals, versus if I'm prepared and it's fast and I can grab it and it's healthy, then it'll support me more. So part of what Miracle Morning is premise is to just plan your morning a little bit better and get up earlier. And that's all I know. But what I do know is that obviously I need to read the book or the Audible or something, because it keeps showing up. It's like Hello, you say knock, knock, knock. The universe is tickling you with a feather. Knock, knock, knock. Here it is. Here's the Mack truck now. Are you listening? So I thought I'd share that. It's just happening in real time.
So absolutely, and you there's no question that the more prepared in planning that you can do ahead of time is so valuable. I mean, I know that if I go even to the gym to work out, if I have a workout written down, that workout's usually more productive than the one time I go and I just sort of wing it, right? And the same thing with what you're talking about in terms of the food and getting up. And here's what I would encourage. If somebody's thinking that sounds good, do you remember the other day, Yasmin, we were talking about the silly rule?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the silly rule is that one that for 30 days you make a habit or you break a habit, whichever it is. And so this would be make a habit, right? That for 30 days, I'm going to get up an hour ahead of schedule, or at least 30 days of mornings, because on the weekend, maybe not, right? But if you work Monday through Friday, if you're an entrepreneur, it's 7 days a week. So you might as well just do it for 30 days straight. But Monday through Friday, let's say for somebody who's working, then obviously they would get up those mornings early. And I would just say for 30 days, I would even do it on the weekends just to get it in your thought. You know what I mean? Like now at the end of 30 days, you may say, hey, I'm not going to do the weekends anymore, but you've created enough of maybe it's still not even the easiest thing, but you understand at that point how beneficial that is to the rest of your day. You know what I'm saying? So, but that silly rule is that at the end of 30 days, you give yourself permission to say, this is the silliest thing I've ever done and I can quit. Most of the time, you're not going to do that. But if you did, you could figure out, okay, that doesn't work for me. Let me try something else. But I believe what you just hit on with whatever that, and I'm not familiar exactly with what you're talking about, but to get up an hour earlier and have that me time, whatever that is for you, whether it's planning, like you said, your meals, or just, allowing yourself to be in that space quietly, because a lot of moms particularly don't get that. When you have the younger kids, I can remember wishing for that too. So it's just, my kids are older now, but I would say do it for 30 days and just give it 100%. And at the end of 30 days, if it's not working for you, then it's not working for you. But my guess is at the end of 30 days, it'll be working for you. And that's a good way to instead of saying for the rest of my life, I have to go do this, try it for 30 days and see how you feel and what kind of results you get.
Yeah. And as we mentioned on the other topic with kitchen conversation and the silly rule, was that the subconscious mind can accept 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
It might reject, I gotta do the rest of my life, and then causes that stress that you were talking about, causes that cortisol, like because the stress is triggering cortisol. So now you're working in conflict with yourself instead of in synergy where you want to go. So 30 days is definitely, which is why we originally started with a 30-day Get Your Biz Lean challenge, because we know that 30 days, a lot can be accomplished, and people can say, I can do 30 days. So whether it's your business, your health, your relationship, whatever it is, marketing, sales, whatever it is you want to bring into your life as your next habit, definitely 30 days. You say, you want to get that habit, and once you build that habit, like you say, you can choose, you know what, this isn't working. And I love that. It gives you freedom. And like Daddy said, it wouldn't have me, I would have it at the end of the 30 days, where you feel empowered to make a choice, not from guilt, but at a true choice. So I love that.
Yeah. So, I think sometimes it's just, we all have to start where we are. And one of the things I was always saying to my mom, because my mom, and, I talk about my mom a lot because a lot of my, like I said, a lot of my issues, and I know that I had to kind of work through, came from that childhood experience with her, much more so than with my dad. But the other thing we talked about the other day was sort of owning where we are. And I think there's sometimes this desire on people's part to compare. And my dad was somebody that seemed like he could just, my mom would go, I just don't get it. He eats whatever he wants and he never gains weight. I find it annoying and I just want to smack him. I can resemble that. Yeah. So I used to say, well, you know what, Mom, you go ahead and smack him. And maybe that'll make you feel better for a moment. But the reality is that that's not your journey. That's his. Yours, you have to own. And you don't have that same. So how are you going to step up and say, this is my situation. This is my life. What am I going to do? Because I'm not on his journey. I'm on mine. And I think sometimes it's really hard. And, and I mean, I just tell you, and then people look at famous people and they think, oh, well, you know what? They have a lot of money. They have people that they pay to make their meals and set their schedules and all that. You know what? And most of us don't live in that world. I would like to try it out, honestly, for 30 days and see what it's like, but we don't. And so the reality is that, where are you? Own it first. Own where you are, and it doesn't matter. You can sit and be, again, in that guilt phase of where you are and say it's not good enough or whatever, or you can say this is it and step into your own awareness and allow yourself to move forward. But sometimes we just have to just get rid of. And the other thing I want to go back on, and this is really important, because Yasmin, you have support in your home, right? You and your husband are on a team sort of working through this. I work with so many people that I know when they leave, after we talk about things they're going to do, they're going to go home and they're going to step into an environment with not any of that around them and no support potentially. Not just support, but maybe even somebody that gives them a hard time, right? Because when they start to make changes, other people don't want to, and they don't want to have to look at themselves, so they want to hold them back. And so we talk a lot about when you step back into your home, it's your life, it's your responsibility to step up. And you know what, you may get resistance, but at the end of the day, that resistance isn't going to get you healthier. You just need to understand what it is and figure out how it is you're going to choose to respond to it. And so I prepare them for even walking back into their own house. You fortunately have that support, and a lot of people would, but there's a lot of people, they come back and they say, well, I'm not going to do this now because, my husband or my wife thought it was stupid.
And not just around health, because you nailed it right on the head. People don't want to make those changes, and they want to step outside their comfort zone. If their spouse makes that change and they're not ready, that resistance is going to come up, and it is going to shake the commitment of the person who wants to make change. So as a couple, you got to have a commitment larger than resistance. Mm-hmm. It creates a structure larger than where find somebody else for support. Or everything is a negotiation. Something to negotiate with that spouse on what they're willing to do or what you need. Not that they have to, but what it is that you need is going through it. And I've shared my husband what I need in that level of support. Even though he may agree or not agree, down this area he does. But in other areas, sometimes not. Like I'll go to a coaching workshop or a business workshop or any of those sort of live events that are out there, and people go and they're so excited, and then they go back home in their own world, right? And what happens? Exactly what you just said. So it's not just even around health, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where you're around like-minded people that are on the same course as you. But when you go back into your regular daily routine, whether it's people you surround yourself with, or you allow your own limiting thoughts to creep in again. You want to create that structure for support that, again, is bigger than that commitment. How that could look is set up an accountability buddy. It could look at whatever it is, health, business, whatever that looks like. Could be to write down your goals every day and read them. Could be scheduling in your calendar the days that, or the times that you're going to do, for instance, the working out, or scheduling your calendar when you can prepare those small meals. And again, I'm saying this for myself. In other areas, I do this, and in some areas, I don't. And as Harbacker says, he can tell within 5 minutes what your mindset is, your mind, and he can help you have a mind shift, because the outside is a reflection of your inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I remember this now. And it's one of the things I would tell them is, and I brought this up the last time we chatted, which was around that little book called Balcony People. I think which hangout was that? Was that?
I don't recall that exactly.
Okay,
I'm intrigued.
Real quickly, there's a little book called Balcony People, And what the book is, it's just a little book, but it just stuck with me. I read it years ago. And really it's that there's people in the balconies who are cheering you on, who see your potential, who want you to become the best version of who it is you can be. And then there's basement people. They don't know they're basement people sometimes. Sometimes it's just people worrying over you, like my mom who used to worry over me, right? Like, oh, I just think you work too much and you work too hard and da da. And in some ways she wanted to hold me back because she didn't want to worry about me, right? So that becomes a negative pull in your life a little bit sometimes, even though that would never be her goal at the end of the day. Some people don't want you to succeed because they don't want to look at themselves. So you have to sort of, and it's not that you cut all those people. I've heard people say, well, just cut them out of your life. Well, that's not the goal either, right? The real goal is to get into the balconies and become a balcony person for other people. And I love the book. It's very beautiful, but I think when you were talking about, and we used to say this, is go find a balcony buddy. Go find somebody who wants to be in the balconies with you, who wants to support you. So that's kind of like what you're saying, like a support buddy or accountability buddy. I think a balcony buddy is the best, because I think that those are people that are there and they just want to see you succeed, and you support each other in those areas, right, where maybe you're not quite there yet. They may be better in some areas and you're better in some areas, but you're there in the balconies helping each other.
Well, I love it. Concept, of course. I always learn from each one of you, and balcony buddy is not a term I've heard before. I've heard as accountability, but that can sound a little daunting. It really is more about balcony buddy. And I'll tell you, you all for me and who I am for you, all of us, I feel are each other's balcony buddies. And I have made a commitment to my life's journey of choosing whenever I can only balcony buddies in my life. Another way of saying is energy givers versus energy suckers, people who see me for what's possible and really support me with where I want to go, instead of those naysayers. And again, we said in other hangouts, sometimes we're related to them. So just shift the conversation to where there's a common ground, because we can't get rid of, God bless us, about a year and a half now. And it rocked my world for at least a year, which was another addition to some emotional eating that I've been doing recently. But I will say that I would wish I could give anything to have her back. But I would tell you that at the time, I always saw her more as a basement buddy, because she would hold me back like my mom did in some ways, to keep me safe and to worry, about me being an entrepreneur and going out on my own and coaching people or different things, So I can talk it, and I make it every day of my life. And I made a choice, like going forward, I really, whenever possible, want to attract a variety of balcony buddies. And look, see, I have you guys, and you have me. So those are balcony buddies, and I love it. I'm so grateful, so grateful. So I definitely encourage our audience to really make that conscious shift, right, and awareness, like who are your balcony buddies? Don't eliminate the basement buddies, but how can you maybe shift that conversation that works?
You might want to. There might be a few basement buddies you might want to eliminate.
There is. But like I always say, sometimes we're related to them. So what I've learned from my training of relationships is to kind of meet them where they are, where there's a commonality, instead of trying to hit them over the head with what your agenda might be or what you're up to. But overall, balcony buddies, I double thumbs up. I truly only have that in my life, and it really makes such a difference in my well-being. Do you find the same?
Yeah. I mean, again, I have people that, here's the reality is that somebody in the balconies who's achieved something that you want to achieve and they want to see you achieve it, that's who you want to align with. You can't expect somebody who's still in the basement to really support you in the way that you deserve to be supported. And I think, and sometimes it's really, I wanted my mom's health for her more than she wanted it for herself, her entire life. And it's hard. It's really frustrating, right? Like, because you want something more for someone than they want for themselves, and you can't make them want that. You can try, but after a while, you just sort of realize that they've made their choices. And it's, and as a result, she's not with us anymore, and it was very, very difficult. But I was I didn't cut her out of my life. I tried very hard to pull her into the balconies, you know, and maybe now I think if I'd done something differently, I could have, but that's that regret thing, and you can't go back and redo and undo. So you just move forward and think about how you can do things differently. So I think of having a balcony buddy, and it's funny because I hadn't used that term for a while, and you made me think of it when you said that. I used to use that all the time, and I think that's something that absolutely is just powerful, that you pick those people wisely. In terms of who you're going to really have as your, you know, your mentors and your coaches and people that you really want to grow with in that way.
Absolutely. We're going to talk on Thursday about really making priority choices, because how we spend our time will absolutely affect who you surround yourself with, will absolutely have a direct result of your own outcome. So you want to be very mindful of that and to prioritize your time. So you have your family, you have your business. There's all these things pulling at you. So if you're going to build those relationships, choose wisely, right? So that's what I have learned. And can you believe we're upon our hour again? It goes fast.
I was just trying something to see if, no, I can't actually. It's been great. And I know you're going to close it out with a VAX, right?
Mm-hmm. We can do that. So with our VAX, you know, really looking at, actually I've done them before myself. I don't know if you want to choose a particular one, but what I'm going to remember to share with the audience is pick a wellness statement. Like I think it was mentioned in the past, I drink water effortlessly and easily, right? So there's different ways to do that. And so one way is to make the statement, remember to say it in the present tense. So I'll say, let's see, for myself, and you can work through this with me too, is the I drink water effortlessly and easily. And so then we say that like 10 times to ourselves, or 5 times, but sometimes even going longer, just so that we have that mindset shift that happens.
Let me just say this real quick. For some reason, and it's gotten like progressively more so as you've gone along, and I don't know why, when my microphone is on, we're getting some feedback, and Dottie's probably gonna say you should, I just realized that my microphone on this end might be picking it up and doing it. So I'm gonna let you do this without, I'll mimic it, but I'm gonna let you do this without me talking, because I think we'll get rid of that feedback a little bit, so so that people can hear clearly what you're saying. So I'll be on mute for just a couple of minutes here while you finish this out.
Okay. So when I'm visualizing myself, you know, drinking the water effortlessly, so I'm going to close my eyes and really visualize that and say it to myself at least 5 times, that mantra or an affirmation. People call it different things. So that's what I'll do now. So bear with me. And then I'll say it 5 times. I drink water effortlessly and easily. 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 Is that 5? I think so. And then when you do the rolling of the ears like this, you know, I drink water effortlessly and easily. There's a lot of nerve endings here. I drink water effortlessly and easily. I drink water effortlessly and easily. I drink water effortlessly and easily. And I know when people see this for the first time, they think it's kind of wacky, but the truth is the subconscious mind is so powerful, and we've mentioned this before, that when you're training your mind to receive the different senses, taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound, even though we're not necessarily using smell, but if you really want to get extra credit, what would that smell like to drink water? Now, I know that sounds odd, but you're bringing in more of the senses. And it actually creates a reality for your subconscious mind that it is what is so. Because whether it's subconscious or not, or real or not, your subconscious mind believes that it's so anyway. So we're really retraining the brain, which is why we incorporate VAX in our weekly Google Hangouts to teach our audience how to do it for themselves. And it just takes a couple of minutes.
Okay, I got muted.
All right, that's what I thought. So I don't know why we're having some of those audio issues, but I just really want to thank you, Cheryl, for sharing your wisdom. I always get so much value in talking with you. You have such a great, vast experience, and you're an amazing storyteller. I love it. And just such pearls of wisdom. Thank you so much for being on Google Hangout with me.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you all for joining us. Be well.